Welcome. I'm your host, Paula Scatoloni, the founder of Transformative Harmonics, a podcast that offers listeners a synthesis of ancient wisdom and modern science. Hello, and welcome back to Transformative Harmonics. I'm Paula Scatoloni. And today I am so thrilled, as I always am, to have yet another rock star hanging out with us in this podcast and sharing some dialogue. And as always, I'd like to invite those that are listening to take some time, slow down, and allow yourselves to come into relationship with us during this podcast as you hear our voices and you allow whatever we're saying. Some of it may land in your body and resonate, and some may be put aside for another day, and you may come back and listen again. So always working with this concept of sound and both of our voices. We're using sound. And so we're going to recognize that and invite you into a little relationship with it today. So my guest today is Cheri Lindberg. Cheri is a transformational coach, speaker, psychotherapist, and she has over 20 years of experience in guiding high-performing healers, leaders, and changemakers that want to break free from old patterns, reclaim their energy, and embody their fullest leadership. Cheri blends neuroscience with ancient wisdom. She offers trauma-informed, soul-centered coaching and brain-spotting intensives that honor both your nervous system and your spirit. Cheri's mission is to help you align with your inner healer, inside and out, to help you connect with your intuitive knowing, to lead with clarity, courage, and compassion. Whether you're seeking deep personal growth or transformation on a global stage, she is here to mentor and support you. So thank you so much for being here. I feel like we're both on this parallel path, and I'm excited and have really enjoyed the conversations we've had about that path. And I'm intrigued and interested in hearing a little bit more about your story and your new book. And so I thought this would be a good time for us to reconnect. So welcome. Welcome,
Yeah,
Cheri.
thank you, Paula, so much for this opportunity to share and have a dialogue. And as I said earlier, let's see where this takes us.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, to catch the readers up, I will share a little of how we met, and then we'll jump into the conversation. So I, like many providers, am still working in the field and getting my CEUs and looking for those programs, right, where we can get the CE credits. And I came across Brainspotting, which I had not been trained in, so I was intrigued by it, and then joined one of your classes and met you, and just loved how you offered it and what you brought in and how integrative and encompassing everything is that you were holding as you were teaching. And I also had a moment of clarity of that overlap with the modalities, be it somatic experiencing, but some of the other non-Western or energetic perspectives that I was engaging in at the time. And I had these moments of seeing how it all works together and that we're really swimming in the same soup. So that began some conversations and some excitement about this overlap that we have.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I absolutely love about Brainspotting is the fact exactly what you're saying is that it is very open to spirituality. It's open to indigenous ancient knowledge and helping us raise our consciousness and wherever that leads us. And I think that's why you and I vibed together and connected so well, because the work that you're doing with the frequencies and the sounds, like you're saying, they're all pieces to the puzzle.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I'm glad that we can have this dialogue today, and it might be nice to start with a little about your story of how this intersection came. I always find, my path was SE and sound, but I'd love to hear other people's path and how they brought everything together, and then dialoguing about what you're doing now with that integrated
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Would love to share. And it's in the book. Pre-orders start on September 16th. and it's called Sacred Knowing. And the reason that title, first of all, that title did not come from me. That title came from Spirit. And it's really about everyone has a sacred knowing inside themselves. And aren't we all just trying to get back to that, right? We come here to this earth and we splat because we're just trying to survive here. And we have all these layers of adaptations to survive. And then we spend a lot of portion of our life taking those layers and shields off so that we can feel into our true hearts and who we really are and be present. And so, like many healers, my journey, I started out as a very spiritual child, not even realizing that, I would talk to, this is really far out, but I would talk to spirits and not even realize that not everybody did that. And then I had a really horrible trauma that happened to me when I was 8 years old, and all of that got shut down. And so, a large portion of my life and my trajectory of my journey has been about self-healing. And I didn't even realize until I was in my undergraduate school that I had PTSD. Like many folks, you take that abnormal psychology class and you have everything in there, right? I'm like, whoa, like I have a lot of symptomology. And that's when I recognized I had PTSD. It was my background was in human development. And I had some wonderful instructors that were telling me how intelligent I was, and then I need to go on for my master's. And I didn't come from a family that really was educationally, it wasn't something that was toted, like get your education, And so I was the first one to graduate in my family with an undergraduate degree. And then these messages inside that we all have was like, who do you think you are getting a master's degree, right? And so with the support of these instructors, got an assistantship, and I went to grad school. And it was in the middle of my grad school where this was the trajectory change for me, where I hit black ice driving in the winter, and I spinned my car 180. I was on my way to do a college presentation, one of my final college presentations. And I got there to school and I was trembling. And I'm like, I can't get up in front and do this presentation. And I had a friend that pulled me into her room, threw some bilateral music on me, and I could feel this leaving. I could feel the trembling leaving, and I was laughing because I'm like, what is this, right? And she was using a combination of EMDR and the bilateral sound. And she told me about David Grand, and I knew of him. And so I got trained. I got trained in EMDR. That was my first method in understanding bottom-up processing and how these imprints in our bodies get stuck in there, and then they get triggered, and they cause us to have false beliefs about ourselves, false behavior about ourselves, and they're from the past, right? And this is what, a lot of PTSD is. And I want people to know, because I just read a story yesterday, actually, where this woman is been told she's going to have PTSD the rest of her life, and you're going to have good days and bad days, and you're going to struggle. And I want people to know there is a lot of internal work that you can do to release this stuff out of your system. I no longer meet the criteria for PTSD. I don't have flashbacks anymore. I might run a little anxious, but very manageable. I'm not on any medication for it. And I want people to know this. So that was like the beginning of the journey. And then from EMDR, I trained a lot of folks, and it wasn't getting deep enough. That's how I felt. And then I heard about Brainspotting from an intern I was supporting, and the rest is history. I mean, I can go on into like some other aspects of it, but David saw me, he saw my talent, and, unbelievably, I became a trainer.
What a story. I mean, there's so many pieces of this. I want to slow down and chew on a little,
Sure.
if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
One is the very beginning, this idea of you being an intuitive child.
Yes.
And that so many of us, that's in our nature, and that we live in a culture and a society that hasn't recognized that. And so
Yes.
that can get shut down, and we can even feel like something's wrong with us or we're different for being so sensitive or so intuitive. And so I'm really resonating with that story. And I think a lot of the folks that listen to the podcast also can find that somewhere along the way, that piece of themselves got lost. And so as you continue your healing and as you did your trauma treatment, did that start to come back online?
Well, that's a great question. I decided to go towards academia because in our culture, if you have credentials and initials after your name, people start to listen to you. So to feel important, to feel like I belonged, I went towards my education. And and all the while, these little whispers were there. And I just kept shutting them down because I knew if I went in that direction, like I was concerned that people would not listen to me or think I was labeled weird as a child, right? So it wasn't until 3.5 years ago that my best friend passed away from breast cancer. This was another turning point, and that kicked the door wide open. So I saw her the day that she passed away. Her husband called me while I was in the middle of a Brainspotting training with Cynthia Schwartzberg. And he called me and said, I don't know if she's alive or dead. And I knew she had passed because I was seeing her right next to me. And I didn't know what to do about that, how to say, I thought I was losing my mind. I did not know what was going on. And I just tried to calm him and said, comfort him. And then I told him I'd call him later after, to check in with him. And I told Cynthia what was going on. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to complete this training. And she's like, well, why don't we brain spot with her? So we took the lunchtime and I brain spotted with her. And I heard her say, this is how I wanted to go. I wanted it to be quick. I did not want my family to see me slowly deteriorate. I knew this was going to happen. This is the way I wanted it. She told me a lot of beautiful things. She showed me memories. I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. She showed me memories of our childhood, us dancing and singing to REO Speedwagon, like all these beautiful memories of growing up together. And then I was able to say a proper goodbye. And I could smell her. I could feel her. And it felt really good to be able to have that time with her. And so I was able to finish the training. And then, in fact, she visited me again right before the funeral because they asked me to stand up and speak at the funeral. And I knew there was going to be a lot of people because she was just loved by so many people. And so I asked her to help me. And so we found a poem together and we found a Bible verse. And this is in the book, actually, how we tweaked it together so that we could share it, with her family at that time. And so since then, I have been having people come to me doing brain spotting where all of a sudden people that they love that have passed on come in and they visit. And so people are brain spotting with the people that they love that have passed and they're having these beautiful closures. Or I've had mothers who have lost children and the babies show up or the children show up in the sessions. During my trainings, all of a sudden these demos are all about ancestors or people that have passed on. And I'm like, wow, how is this happening? Like prior to it had happened occasionally, but after Kim's passing, I mean, like almost every single training I have, this is occurring. And I knew I was really scared to bring this out, but I knew I needed to talk about it because I have healers that are coming to me scared of these experiences, and it's very healing for their clients. So I knew I needed to speak about it. I still don't completely understand it, but I think it's important that we share this, because just because we can't see it or we don't understand it doesn't mean it's not real.
Mm-hmm. I love that you're bringing this up, because it does fall into this larger conversation about consciousness and the veil of knowing where things are, and that there's many ways of exploring consciousness, and this is one of them, right? And so to bring this into normalcy, into the training space, into the space with the therapists who are here mentoring with you to give them guidance, is such a beautiful and profound thing. And so I love this story, and it just feels, I was getting so warm hearing about it. And this, I love that you also said, like, I can't explain it, because it speaks to, because we both train in both the neuroscience and the phenomenology of the body, that there's some things that we can't explain. And how do we stay in that place of groundedness and openness?
Yes.
Right? So,
yes.
Wow, that sounds crazy and powerful and amazing.
Yeah, and I'm really excited. This month, Tara Schwartz is coming out with a book. She's the one that wrote The Source, and she's coming out with a second book to talk about the expansive capacities of our brain. And she was on a podcast recently talking about the fact that she was able to communicate with her husband after he passed. And she's a neuroscientist. So she's one person that's coming out, right? And then you have Lisa Miller. Now, Lisa Miller is more academic, and she's got the awakened brain, but she's done research to show that if you have a belief in a higher power, just a belief, whatever that is, that's a buffer, high percentage against depression. Why are we not talking more about that? And I think in our world today, more and more people that are disenchanted and scared and worried about what's going on are opening more to new spiritual beliefs or blossoming spiritual beliefs, wanting to explore. And yeah, so I think it's going to continue.
Yeah. And I'm glad that we have some, and yourself included, some grounded. I know there's a lot out there right now in terms of spirituality. It's exploding, but it's nice to have different doorways that people can enter into this conversation, to offer them a more holistic perspective of who they are as humans. And yeah, the time is ripe for that. So going back to your story, so we have this blossoming intuition and this embodiment and acceptance of your broader multidimensional gifts, you could say, right? And how do those get integrated into Brainspotting, mentoring, and the things that you offer? And then you have this common catalyst of trauma or traumatic event at the beginning too, that was a doorway for you into understanding the connection between the body and the mind. And that led you to Brainspotting. And that has been a growing leap for society, I think, as well. You know, where so many of psychology as a science, but also as a spiritual path, was fairly grounded in the mind for so long. And so as you've gone along your path, you've stumbled into, for not a great reason, but the ways in which we invited the body in, and then now we're inviting the spirit in, right? So it's kind of the progression of psychology or psychological or psycho-spiritual growth through time. And so you've been on a path as the field itself has grown as well. So do you feel with brain spotting and some of the work that you're doing that the field is ready to embrace spirituality as part of it?
Yeah, Heather Corbin and I have created a class called Brainspotting Spirituality, Intuition Plus Manifesting. And our tagline is putting the science in the woo, because I know everyone, when they don't understand it, they call it woo-woo for some reason, right? And so we're like, no, this is neuroscience based. So we're showing, and again, James Doty wrote about this in Magic Mind, how our brains are habitual organs and that we can do practices inside to create these muscles inside so that we can manifest, right? So we're trying to blend spirituality and science, which I know there's not the greatest track record there, and our bodies. Like we are very powerful. Our bodies and our brains, our systems, our central nervous systems, plural, what we're learning are very powerful and have these ways of communicating that are beyond words. We're learning, and I know you know this, but we're learning that sound and vibration and these other areas we have not explored are now science is catching up. There's an organization out there called Consciousness Healing Initiative. They're doing the research. And so, yes, I think we're more open to this. We're starting to know that like Reiki is scientific, right? The exchange of energy, and that it is not voodoo. It's not, demonic, or some people will, label this as a being. We are electrical beings. We give off energy, right? Like, here's a simple example for your listeners. When you walk into a room and somebody's mad, you can tell, you feel it. That's energy. It's simple as that. Like a therapists know they'll have a funny feeling, or they call it a vibe or an intuition, right? Their client comes in and the client isn't doing well. They feel into that. That is energy. And so we're starting to understand this scientifically. Also, indigenous populations, this is ancient wisdom. Like, it's no surprise to them. They're like, okay, Western culture, like, you're way behind here, right? We've known this for, millennia, right? And now we're starting to put the science to prove what they've known, all along. So I think more and more people are opening up, chanting and mantraing and all of these kinds of things that can shift states, physiological states in the body. We're starting to understand it because we're connecting it to the neuroscience.
And I have mixed feelings about it. On one hand, it excites me that we're all having the same conversation. And on the other hand, I get frustrated that for those in white bodies to accept it, they have to prove it.
Yeah.
Right. And that this idea of the mystery just being valid, because we've had our own felt sense experience of it, is still not enough at some level.
Yes.
And it speaks to, though, both of the ways that we work in helping people to have their own lived experience through our programs so that they can believe from the inside.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And you do that a lot.
It doesn't bother me at all that it's okay. Be skeptical. Come and be with me for an hour and let's do a brain spotting session. Because I know what's going to happen. Because these brain spots are portals in to the universal consciousness. I mean, that's my belief. And I can read people's bodies and their neurobiology, and I can help them connect so that they can have that lived experience of a shift based on what you're sharing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I love that so your invitation is to, well, be skeptical, bring it with you, and let's hang out together and see what happens.
Because the skepticism is, there's a guard on duty for a reason, right? There's always a reason, and all parts are welcome. And those skeptics and guards that are on duty are protection. And that all that tells me is that this person has been hurt and has had to put that up for protection. And there's lots of compassion that comes with that. So it doesn't worry me at all. It's the folks that aren't open or shut it down before they even have the lived experience that it's like, okay, well, you don't know what you're missing, and that's fine if you choose that's your path. But I'm interested in working with folks that are open, that because I see what happens. Like, we get to the part of the brain that's connected to spirituality, the seat of the soul, based on what Antonio Damasio says, and creativity. We get connected to that part of the brain. And when we can open that part of the brain more and release old patterns, you see people blossom. And it's amazing. And that's my favorite part of doing all this work.
Oh, I love it. And what starts to happen for them? What is some of that life-changing ingredients or part of that meal that they then enter into?
Yeah. So their lives start to change. And it really depends on where, what's the word I want to look for here? Where it's not serving them anymore. So for some people, it might be a loss of a relationship. They might end up getting a divorce, or they might end up getting married, right? All of a sudden. Or they make a decision to leave a job, okay? Because they're like, okay, that's no longer serving me. I want to do this now. People may change careers. All of a sudden they start to become an artist on the side, or they start to, I used to sing as a kid and now I'm going to join this choir as an adult and I haven't done it in 20 years. Like, these are the things you start to see, and it's very exciting. Like, I'm thinking of one particular person who came to me and said, I am happy working at an agency. Like, it was almost like she was trying to convince me. And I said to her, I give you a year. I give you a year there. 6 months. And she switched over to private practice. And we giggle about it now because I told her, I said, be prepared, because I can tell you are not satisfied there and you're looking for something more. And I said, I predict within a year you will be in private practice. And it was 6 months. So these are the things. And I love doing the little predictions because I can see the therapist healer trajectory. I can see their talents and I can see what's opening for them. And it's beautiful to witness that and contribute to that and hold the space to watch them grow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think there's so much excitement and satisfaction watching. It's like a flower blooming.
Yes.
And each person really comes into, whether you call it the authentic self or the essence or the alignment, with something that feels more congruent, right, to their truth. And it's just so beautiful to watch.
And I hold the space for people's fears too, because the fears are the blocks, right? Whatever the fear is. And I say to them, okay, I decided I was going to get my doctorate. I brain spotted through that whole thing so that I could work through the fear, because there were times where I had writer's block. There were times where I was frozen, but there were 3 classes that I created out of that. I didn't finish. I did end up finishing the dissertation, but I spent more of my time creating 3 trainings out of that than I could have gotten the dissertation done sooner. So I share with them, I brain spotted through that. Now the release of this book, you betcha. This is vulnerable stuff that's going to be going out. I am still brain spotting through it, because I get nauseated when I start to think about it being out there. And I know it's my truth, and it's a labor of love. And I know there's some soul out there that needs to hear this so that they don't give up on their healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that capacity for determination to keep going. Yes. I think that is a huge piece of the work that many of us are doing is standing a little bit ahead of the line to say, like, okay, I got this far, to offer that rope for them to keep coming, right? Yes. And then someone else is offering us a rope, and we just help each other along.
Yeah. I use that analogy and I say, you can walk in my footsteps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I remember one story you talked about brain spotting at you were somewhere in Peru or at some event, and you decided to brain spot at the event. It was in some type of ceremony. Do you remember that story?
Well, I know I take groups to Peru and we go to the Temple of the Moon, or we go when we're up in sacred places, we'll sit and we'll brain spot on the sacred land. So I don't remember the exact event that you're talking about, but it happens so often. Like I've brain spotted on planes. I've brain spotted in the middle of a conference in a hallway because somebody wanted to have an experience. If I'm part of a group and I talk about brain spotting and somebody's curious, I'm like always open to giving somebody an experience. So I've done that in so many different places. So it's probably hard for me to remember a particular event.
It's very portable.
Yes.
I love though that you're able to stop and capture any moment and turn it into a teaching moment or an experiential moment for people. So that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, with the book coming out, is there anything else that's hidden in there that we might pull out today, being that this is one of the first podcasts where you're launching the book? So I do want to create some space. I loved, for myself, I haven't seen the inside, but the cover itself is stunning.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And so any other little gems or pieces about it that feel important today?
All right, here we go. I'm going to try and reveal this. Yes, there's lots of little gems in there about, I share different ways that I use brain spotting. One of the ways that I talk about is how brain spotting has helped me enhance my gifts in channeling and in mediumship. I talk about that. So if you have some spiritual intuition and you want to expand that, brain spotting is a fantastic tool for that. It opens you up even more. And I talk about this in the book, that I am a baby in diapers here. Like I am going in a direction I never saw coming completely. So I am using it in my Peruvian ceremonies. So I'm learning shamanism right now. I'm studying with an Altamusayu, which is a high healer in Peru. I also have a Celtic shaman because I'm drawn to both traditions that I work with, and I'm learning these ceremonies, and then I'm adding the brain spot with it to help it. I wouldn't say go deeper, but I'm blending those things so that the client can go maybe deeper into their body or their knowing or whatever, whatever's coming up for them in those moments. And I'm learning that often my intuition when I'm brain spotting with someone is channeling, and I can feel it in my body. I'm starting to recognize like my body feels different when I'm holding space and doing a brain spotting healing than when I'm not, right? And so just recently recognized, okay, I'm getting information from somewhere else, and it's coming organically. And again, it was safe to say intuition. Like folks will respond if you say intuition. When you start to say channeling, then everyone starts to get nervous and, we're in woo-woo. But it is not coming from me. It is coming from a place of wisdom. Again, we could call it collective consciousness. We could call it higher power. Whatever your spiritual belief is, we are not alone, and we do have guidance. And so I feel that I can pull from that while I'm holding this beautiful co-regulating dual attunement space with the client when we're doing brain spotting work.
Yeah. I I think that the words, you're giving us a lot of different words to name a process of that artists drop into all the time, right? I refer to it as embodied wisdom, right? That wisdom is different than knowledge. It comes from another place. And but the words that we have right now make people worried, right?
Yeah.
And they don't have a context for it, right? So many of us are finding the different ways to talk about a process of opening to information that is beyond.
Yes.
And so we have different ways of getting that information. It might come through the visual channel, might come through the sound, auditory channel. And these are channels that are available to everyone through our senses, right? Through our five senses. So these are just heightened experiences of the five senses that exist for us all.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that you're bringing that into the conversation and then tying that back to some of the practices that the indigenous perspectives have are, they have their pathway for engaging with what neuroscience is just catching up to and understanding. Right. And so you're kind of at the threshold of those two worlds, holding them each in one hand and helping to bridge.
And it's so exciting. And if we want to use a safer word for folks out there that are more science-based, flow states. Okay?
Flow states, yeah.
Flow states, yep. Look up The Art of Impossible with Stephen Kotler. He is all about studying flow states. And again, this is creating, I think, a vessel for our ability to go into these states of knowing and intuition and creativity. And so again, we in Brainspotting, Spirituality, and Intuition plus Manifesting, we talk about this, that there are systematic ways that, and these are scientific, there's research on this for those that need the research, that we can put ourselves into these flow states. And this is where the intuition and the creativity goes off the charts.
I love that you can talk about this in I was sitting here thinking, wow, you're a wealth of information being able to pull from these scientific sources to just normalize a process that everyone has access to. But we've all been cut off from it, right? So part of what you're doing with your work is opening up that possibility for the people that are interested.
Yeah.
So it's a wonderful service. Yeah.
And
to be
one
involved.
other nugget that I'll put out here, and this is a recent phenomenon for me, is recognizing in all the work that I've done, there's still this anger inside my body that is not releasing. And I could not figure out why until I started to look into Daniel Foor's work, Foor. And his book is Ancestral Medicine. And his teachings are all about working with your dead ancestors. And that, again, if we want to go into the science of this, we know there's an epigenetic energy that is in our bodies from our ancestors that we carry. And Daniel's point of view is that these are traditions that were practiced for a very long time, but this information has been lost because we went more towards prove-it society, right? And now, for those of you that maybe have intuition or connected to your ancestral lineage, like there's a lot of pain and loss and that we still carry in our bodies from folks that are not here anymore. And so that's the next line of growth for me. Like I said, I never saw these things coming. Like, okay, now I'm going to work with dead ancestors, right? And this is divinely. I mean, because I don't think I would have chose this, right? I think it came to me, and I'm following in the uncertainty, which is part of Brainspotting, following where it's leading me. And I think it's very important to put a voice for this to it, because again, there's a lot of practitioners. And I know in what you're doing too, Paula, that we're raising consciousness here. We're going into a place that a lot of us have not visited before. And we're getting this intuitive knowledge. And I just want to really honor that. I want to be a voice for that. And like you said, normalize it so that we can go into it with love instead of fear.
And know that there's places for shepherding and mentoring, because this does not exist in the world right now. There's no schools for therapists to say, well, I'd like to keep all of these things I've been trained in and then add in my intuitive, more expanded gifts. So this is the beginning of creating those spaces for that. And your community is such a robust one that's growing. I see a lot of the things that you're doing, and it's exciting. Lots of creativity coming from you in what you can offer. And I love the travel piece as well, because if you're going to work, you might as well travel and work at the same time. So
That's right.
That piece is good.
And get a tax write-off. I always add that.
It's wonderful. Wonderful. Well, how can our listeners find you? What's the best route? And all the different ways, whether it's social media, your website page, your programs.
So CheriLindberg.com is my website. You will also see me on Elevated Life Academy podcast. And I am new a little over a year now to TikTok. These are the social media things that I'm learning. Thank goodness for the younger generation that can support that learning. And so, I'm on YouTube now. I'm on TikTok, and you'll see there's a lot of themes to the stories that I'm sharing. So I'm trying to get the word out. And so again, thank you so much for the opportunity to be on here and talk to you about all this.
Well, I love that you are stepping into the unknown with this and the world to say, hey, I'm here and this is my story. And we need so many stories. We need different stories of the same phenomenon, because I know it's happening to hundreds and more, right, of the therapists and providers that I know, and people who are not even therapists. And so we need places and stories and safe havens, in a way, to continue the journey and keep going, right, on this path of coming into more authentic connection to ourselves and whatever those gifts may be and what you might bring to the world, right? Whether you're helping a therapist or we're helping one of our clients.
Right.
These are the places to go. And I hope in this conversation too, in the show notes, we'll try to get a list of all these fabulous books that you've mentioned for those that feel like the left brain needs to sit on the couch a little bit to ingest, so that the right brain can relax a little bit and allow the process to flow.
When we feed the neocortex, the subcortical brain brings in the creativity. Absolutely. Yeah. Well, and thank you, because you're on the path too. And so it's really nice to have connection. And I know that I can always reach out and say, hey, I just had this experience, to be able to process it with somebody.
Yes, I appreciate you too, and your community and what you're doing in the world. So I hope we can stay in touch. And thank you for sharing this time with me and the listeners. And if you'd like to know more about Cheri, check out her podcast and the people that she's bringing on there too, because they're all change makers and change agents on the planets themselves.
Well, and Paula's on there, everyone, of course.
So we'll look forward to the book. When's the exact date of the launch?
The launch is October 14th, my 36th wedding anniversary. But the pre-order is starting now and launching September 16th, which is Kim's birthday. So I just thought it was really important to have those special dates in there.
Wonderful. So we will put a connection to the book site as well. And we welcome all of you to continue to reach out to this podcast or Cheri's if you are on a path of evolving consciousness, embodiment, enhancing your own connection to yourself, others, and the world around you. You know where to find us. So thank you again.
Thank you so much.